Mr. B.
Yerrr! It's the Social Millennial Podcast. We out here, gang. What up, y'all? I hope y'all had a great week. I know I did. I can't complain. You feel me? I hope that y'all was winning. And even if y'all wasn't winning, even if y'all wasn't getting to the bag, y'all can't complain because y'all still here. Y'all got y'all breath. You living. We still fighting. We still pushing. So thank y'all for being here. Thank y'all for clicking over. If you guys saw any of my sort of shout outs on our social media outlets, our social media platforms, our social media pages. If this is your first time pulling up to the Social Millennial Podcast, my name is Marcus Pena. Marcus Pena presents the Social Millennial Podcast. This is just a kickback, just a little chill, talk about some things that interested me during this week. Sometimes we get a little heavy, sometimes we don't. I could be talking about the Hubble telescope and some really great science things one week, and then I could be talking about combat sports the following week, and then I could also mix that with some politics. Kind of just chilling out. I'm a pretty eclectic dude. I have a lot of different interests. I am an entertainment guy, an arts guy. So I do a lot of that. I'm a musician, vocalist, songwriter, producer, etc. But yeah, and if you're here for the first time as well, we are on social media. All right. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. We are not on X, formerly known as Twitter. All of the handles everywhere is at Social Millennial Pod. If you were to just Google it at Social Millennial Pod, that's SocialMillennialPod, everything will just come up. It'll be easy. If you head over to YouTube, just type that in the search bar and you're going to find it quick. Make sure to subscribe. For those of y'all watching, what up? Definitely head on over to the audio stuff so that y'all can follow that on Spotify, etc. Y'all don't always have to make the appointment to watch the show. I'm glad that y'all do. And for those of y'all who are only listening, there is a visual component to this podcast. So please hop on over to the YouTubes and give us some views. Give us a like, give us a thumbs up, give us a comment, subscribe. Make sure to hit that bell icon on YouTube. It will hopefully set you up for notifications. I don't know why it was leaving me. Hold on 1 second. I gotta adjust this. For those listening, it was just a little visual hiccup that was bugging me. I'm seeing myself on the monitor over here. So y'all watching, if y'all see me looking over here, it's because I can kind of see myself. But yeah. Pull up to the YouTube, hit that little bell icon, and you can get the notifications. Thank y'all so much. The greatest way that y'all can support is just hit us with a like, hit us with a follow, whether you're listening to this podcast or whether you're watching it. Just interact. Let us know that you like this. Let us know that you are supporting this platform and what this upstart from the Bronx, Afro Latino, you feel me, Jew is doing out here. Trying to build a platform, trying to build a place where like-minded people could come together. You feel me? If y'all support it, that's really what y'all got to do. It is 100% free. Thank y'all so much. For those of y'all listening, or let me say this, for those of y'all watching, our audio component, we are on Spotify. We are on YouTube podcasts. We are on Apple podcasts, and pretty much anywhere the podcasts are served, like Pandora podcast, we're there too. Just search us up, The Social Millennial Podcast, or at Social Millennial Pod, or just Social Millennial Pod. You will find us. For those who are old school and kind of just want to listen to the podcast while they're at their work, at their job, at their computer, at their desktop, maybe you're not, messing around with those newfangled apps on your phone. Check in the link in the description, whether you're watching or whether you're listening, and there should be something there labeled homepage. On some of the platforms, you'll be tapping it. On others, it'll be homepage and then a link under it. That will take you to the web page, to the desktop version, where the desktop sort of area where we host the audio portion or the audio presentation of this podcast. So, y'all could be at work listening, doing your work, typing away, hitting your Excel spreadsheets, and, in another tab on Google Chrome or what have you, Safari, you've got this show going on. So absolutely head on over there. Links in the description everywhere. We've got merch. It will be labeled merch. And also, if y'all want to support in a way that's a little bit more tangible to this project and to this podcast and what's developing, as I'm developing this into sort of a media group, we have a Patreon. You might have noticed if this is also your first time that the numbering of the episodes are starting to become staggered, like every other number. That's because we host bonus episodes over on Patreon. There will be links in the descriptions of everything, everywhere, listening and visual, audio and visual. If you feel like you want to support, there is a supporter tier there. If you want to give something more tangible than just likes, it goes a long way. I'm developing this show specifically, and there's 2 other shows that I'm developing, and I'm going to be putting more content onto the Patreon as well. There's a supporter tier, just a few dollars. I'm telling you, this is not Netflix money. This is not even Amazon Prime money. This isn't Paramount Plus money. This isn't Peacock money. It's nowhere near the prices of those subscription services. We've got that tier, and then we've also got the what are these niggas doing out here? School probably let out. The high schoolers are out here, the knuckleheads. You know, I was a young Thundercat too, so I was one of them. But yeah, we've got a supporter tier, and we've got a We Here tier, where you get the bonus episode. Now the bonus episode is going to be a little bit spicier. I host that episode over there, talking about certain subjects and jumping on certain pop culture stories and things like that, and politics that might be a little bit too controversial for YouTube. I'm not trying to get demonetized. Head on over to the Patreon. We have a good time over there. I have a good time. It's kind of just letting my hair down, you know. Language is a little looser. Vernacular is a little looser, you feel me? Subject matter is a little looser. But yeah, you can go over there for a little bit more than the supporter tier. You get the bonus episodes. But just make sure when you click on that Patreon, when you do, because I know y'all want to support this, head on over to the membership tab. I have everything there also set up in the shop tab, but if you buy the episodes individually, it will cost you more. Just letting y'all know. For whatever reason, Apple charges more. They add on extra fees for the maintenance of the App Store. I don't know. There is a Patreon website, and there is a Patreon app that you could pull from on your phone to be able to check out my Patreon. But yeah, head on over to the membership because it will be much cheaper. Don't get shocked by what it says in the shop, the prices in the shop. It just makes me have to do that. Have to put it in the shop. But if you head on over to the membership, you're paying a very small nominal fee to get the bonus episodes every single week, and they're in audio and they're in video format the same way that these are. These episodes will continue. Do not worry. These free for everyone episodes are gonna continue to happen. This is the basis of our show, and I'm very glad that y'all are here. So now that is out of the way, y'all. Now I've been getting a little bit heavy. Every week it seems like it's some kind of thing with politics, too crazy. I think I've got one story this episode. I believe we're in episode 64, something like that. This episode, I've got one political story. It's a little bit more of a pop culture zeitgeist type of a thing. It gets a little controversial, kind of, but that's it. We're going pretty light this episode. I had a really great week. Just learned that I got another commission to produce another album. So that's going to be fun. That process is, I'm starting that I had started that process immediately, producing from the ground up this album. That means and not just producing, I'm writing the songs from the ground up, composing everything. It's fun. I like doing it. So I'm pretty hyped about that. I'm pretty hyped to be able to put something else together and just put it out there. For this worship collective that I'm part of called From the East. Y'all could look us up. We out here. We have an album out. I'm very proud of it. This is going to be album number 2. So y'all are going to see these advertisements. So help me God. Y'all going to see these advertisements out here in these streets. So I'm pretty hype about that. I'm waiting on a few callbacks. I am an actor as well, so there's a few callbacks that I'm waiting for that have me playing music on camera. I've done so before. I've done so in the past for Pose on FX, the final season. That was a very fun sort of little few scenes I got to do as a bass player. No, that was Wu-Tang. Sorry, Wu-Tang and American Saga. I am bugging, but yeah, Wu-Tang and American Saga. I had a great time. I think it was the third season, the season before the season before the final season. Had a good time doing those scenes. I mean, it was just awesome. Like, so cool. RZA was there. It was, I mean, he was up in the cut on the monitors, but he was there and being directed. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the director. I'm bugging. I'm gonna kick myself later. It was fire, man. We were just chilling. We were in a scene. I was in a scene with Dave East. It was fire. It was fun. It was just a fun time. But yeah, I'm looking at another production where I'll get to play music on camera, which is fun. Seeing if they'll call me back. But I did get sort of the preliminary. Are you still interested in this? Kind of a reach out. And I let them know that I am, absolutely. So I have absolutely been passed to the next step for that role. And hopefully I get a call back. But I'm hype about it. Nonetheless, this stuff gets me excited. I'm very glad that I can do this at this point in my life. And the weather's been pretty good. It's been rainy on and off, but it's also been a little warm and kind of sunny too. Today's super cold. Everybody's telling me, my guy, don't go outside. You don't need to go outside. And I'm hyped for Six Flags. I pulled up to the Six Flags opening day, and it was absolute booty water, trash, basura opening day. I was a little shocked. I was a little surprised because Cedar, for those of you who are in the know about theme parks, which are not that many of y'all, because I mean, I get it. Dorks, geeks, I get it. Lames, I get it. But this other big company, Cedar Fair, that owns Cedar Fair and a whole bunch of other big theme parks, bought Six Flags. Finally, they had tried to do so like years ago and it didn't work out, but it finally worked out. And so they made a whole lot of changes to Six Flags Great Adventure that we found out when we got there. But yeah, it was trash. They were not prepared for the turnout that they got, even though they did mad advertising. At least here in New York, there was mad advertising for Six Flags. Driving up the turnpike, there's mad billboards for Six Flags. Like, they really upped their advertising game. So it was wild to me that it seemed like the upper management at the park didn't trust in the advertising, the effectiveness of the ad or the marketing team to pull people. Very weird. They had a whole bunch of parking problems because they started this new like automated speedy parking thing last year. And, we jumped on it, of course. But they advertised it so heavily and they made it so kind of affordable that they made mad lanes, like when you the entrance gates to like pay to go do your ticket and to do your parking and stuff to go through before you get to the parking lot. They converted a whole bunch of the lanes to speedy parking, and then didn't even have the speedy parking on opening day. So it was a fiasco of cars, like for no reason. And it's like everybody's got speedy parking now. So mad people were in the speedy parking lanes. And it's like when everybody has speedy parking, no one has speedy parking. They changed the parking lot layout to get to the preferred parking. It was just a fiasco of fiascos. And then they understaffed the park. So, I mean, half the park was closed, which I expected because it's cold. Usually when they do the opening day, certain rides are not open because it's chilly. And the weather affects how the rides operate. But so half of the park was closed. One of the rides that I thought was going to be closed ended up opening up, El Toro, but all of the roller coasters were single train, meaning a single train of thing, and that's it. Like usually there's 2 trains, 3 trains, depending on the popularity of that ride, so that it can kind of move the line quick. Everything was 1 train, and they touted and advertised that it was going to be a double ride day as well. So everybody's in Six Flags. It's mad people, and the lines turn into hour-long lines. I mean, in 10 minutes. Fiasco. Absolute. And then they didn't open all of the, because they understaffed, they did not open all of the eateries. So you had everybody funneling into the few eateries that are open. And so then lunchtime becomes a 45-minute wait. Because then they weren't even ready. They're understaffed, and they weren't even ready for the amount of people that were going to come. So they didn't prep the amounts of food that they needed to prep to be able to deal with this kind of a crowd. So you had everywhere is still cooking food and lines coming out the indoor place. It was bonkers. But yeah, we had just pulled up because really our mission was to get the, we're like legacy members. So we had this cup and we had to get this like sticker for the cup to make it valid for this season. That was really why we went. We ended up getting rides, but our mission was accomplished. We got some merch. It was fun. We're waiting till maybe next month to head out there. So if anybody wants to pull up, Marcus Payne Presents is going to be out there. Marcus Payne is going to be out there. Of the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel pose from the East Worship Collective. I mean, I'm not going to ring out all of my accomplishments, but you get it. If y'all going to pull up, let me know in the comments. We're, of course, where applicable. But yeah, I had a great week. We had a good time. Can't complain. Now, getting into the docket for this week on this episode, we got some science. We're doing some wildlife stuff here. We're going to get back to like junior high school. Yeah. This is according to Newsweek. Scientists discover why cheetahs are so fast. I mean, they run fast, right? We just want to say, well, they run fast. They use their tails for stability. They're pretty light. They're lightweight. They're light animals. They're strong. But we're going to get into a little bit of the nitty gritty, a little bit of the nuance off of this book because they studied this. Scientists have discovered a sweet spot in animals that explains why fast-moving animals like the cheetah can reach such high speeds. Now, this is Americans. Animals that can run fast, such as a cheetah, tend to be medium-sized, and an international team of researchers from Imperial Harvard University, the University of Queensland, and the University of the Sunshine Coast set out to find out why. Interesting. Their findings were published in the journal Nature Communications. All right, so they had assessed. They were looking to assess what like constrains how fast something can run. Like, what is it that creates the cap for land animals or running animals? What wall do they hit? What is that wall? And so, quote. This is according to the lead author, Dr. David Labonte from Imperial College. The fastest animals are neither elephants nor tiny ants, but intermediately sized, like cheetahs. Why does running speed break with the regular patterns that govern most other aspects of animal anatomy and performance? Now, they had discovered that there is not just one limit to how fast an animal can run. Rather, there are 2. This is how fast and by how far their muscles can contract. And maximum running speed is determined by what limit they meet first. This limit is determined by the animal's overall size. The study adds. The first limit, dubbed the kinetic energy capacity limit, refers to how smaller animals have muscles that are restrained by how quickly they retract or they contract. Whereas the second limit, dubbed work capacity limit, refers to how larger animals are restrained by how far their muscles contract. So range of motion and in that range of motion, how the distance and the space that the muscles have to curl up. The key to our model is understanding that maximum running speed is constrained by both by how fast muscles contract as well as by how much they can shorten during a contraction. Animals about the size of a cheetah exist in a physical sweet spot at around 50 kilograms, where these two limits coincide. These animals are consequently the fastest, reaching speeds of up to 65 miles per hour, according to co-author Professor Christopher Clemente from University of the Sunshine Coast and University of Queensland. Interesting. When testing the model's accuracy, researchers found that it correctly predicted maximum running speeds across various animals, from large mammals, birds, and lizards. The model doesn't just answer questions about how certain animals can run faster than others, it also sheds light on how muscles evolved. It also provides clues into why there are large differences between certain animal groups. For example, why large reptiles, such as crocodiles, are slower than large mammals. For large animals like rhinos or elephants, running might feel like lifting an enormous weight because their muscles are relatively weaker and gravity demands a larger cost. As a result of both, animals eventually have to slow down as they get bigger. That's according to a co-author, Dr. Peter Bishop from Harvard University. The research also suggested that land animals that weighed more than 40 tons would be completely unable to move. This raises questions about dinosaurs, as there were some species, such as Patagotitan, that probably weighed more than this. The heaviest land animal alive today is the African elephant at 6.6 tons. Our study raises lots of interesting questions about the muscle physiology of both extinct animals and those that are alive today, including human athletes. Physical constraints affect swimming and flying animals as much as running animals, and unlocking these limits is next on our agenda, according to Labonte. So, very, very interesting stuff, right? Because it would stand to reason, right? You've got these gigantic dinosaurs, quote unquote, that have lived millions of years ago, like Stegosaurus. I mean, tons, gigantic animals that roamed this earth. It's like, well, how do they walk then? How much does gravity pull them down based on their mass? But then it's like, well, if you grow in size, then your muscles are going to grow too, like the bigness of your muscles, and it might just end up evening out the way that it does for the rhino on one end of the spectrum, and like elephants on that far end of the spectrum, where the heavier you are, I mean, you feel that heaviness, and you're bigger, so you move a certain kind of way. But yeah, very interesting, because we did already kind of know, or we did already understand, or the scientific community already understood that part of the cheetah's speed, specifically the fastest, has to do with its gait, you know? So when it's running, it really does stretch out far in both directions. When it gives that stride, there's really this long motion that happens. And its aerodynamics as well play a factor. Its tail for stability plays a factor. So we kind of knew that there was something going on regarding its size, like its physiology. Because it's a smaller animal, its muscles are not as dense, as heavy, as powerful even as a lion. Lions' muscles are very strong. Consequently, lions are very heavy. They're larger than cheetahs. But that cheetahs, like, it's showing, or this new development, this new minimum maximum sort of equation, in understanding what the upper and lower limitations are, really shed light on the idea that just because your muscles are big, or just because your muscles are powerful or might be powerful, doesn't mean that you're going to be the fastest or the strongest necessarily, because of these other mitigating factors, because of your weight, because of the bone structure, because of the gait. Where a rhino's muscles are actually stronger and more powerful than a cheetah's. They're larger. There's more muscle fibers to recruit, but it gets cut. That power gets cut because of the weight of the animal and the height of the animal and the length of the animal and the range of motion of the animal. You know, rhinos don't have this long stretched out gait. They can't lift. They can't lift their arms up at certain joints very, very far. Their legs, I should say, very far. They don't have that range of motion to be able to recruit all of those muscle fibers. They have a very little sort of a gallop, but it's a trot gallop that they take time and even in that to gain some kind of speed. So super, super interesting. What do y'all think about that? Do y'all think that y'all figured that out before these scientists did way back in junior high school? You feel me? Because I remember we've got the Bronx Zoo here in NYC, which is a fire zoo, probably the most fire zoo. We out here. Bronx is out here. It is what it is. Don't complain. Yeah, I've been to the zoo so many times, the Bronx Zoo. I think they did have cheetahs at one point. But yeah, it was, I've seen them. I've seen them up close. It's a thing. The size difference, everything. It's a thing. I mean, these cheetahs, think like a greyhound. If y'all know what greyhound is, y'all might just know Greyhound as the bus company, but there's a reason why the Greyhound bus company's mascot is a dog, is a gray dog. Because there is a dog called a greyhound, colloquially known as the Greyhound, and is shaped that way, is shaped in the logo of the Greyhound bus company. And they are used for racing because they can run really fast. They're super fast. And their anatomy is like that, where they're like really bred to be really slim, really lightweight dogs. So yeah, it's like you sneeze on them. It's like paper clips. They're like Ferraris. Or Lambos or McLarens. They're super edgy, super things, super stripped down weight, super this, built for speed. But it is you don't got to crash a McLaren that hard to shatter it. But yeah, what do y'all think in the comments? Let me know. Our next story, again, real light, easy breezy, beautiful cover girl. We out here. MTA NYC again, the MTA is a mafia. It's a mafia. According to the Gothamist, MTA spends $100 million to revitalize 2 grimy historic NYC subway stations. Two of New York's most historic and dilapidated subway stations are due for renovations that aim to restore the spaces to their original glory. The MTA is planning historically sensitive repairs they quoted this, not me, repairs at the Chambers Street station near City Hall and the 190th Street station in Washington Heights. The plan was revealed in a request for bids published by the MTA last year. The work is estimated to cost at least $100 million. And records show it's expected to take 2 years to complete once the agency hires a contractor. At Chambers Street, nearly every single white tiled column on the J train platform is chipped or missing tiles. Most of the columns have graffiti. Peeled paint dangles from the ceiling that bats like bats in a cave. The station, which opened in 1913 as part of an early subway line, is tucked beneath the municipal building and has a white tiled dome entrance in the plaza above. Its interior, adorned with mosaics and plaques, was once celebrated for its Beaux Arts design. Yeah, it really was great. It really was. I mean, you see the old pictures, that joint looked cool. When I tell you these stations are dilapidated, I mean, they filmed movies in these stations to highlight how grungy New York was in the 80s and the 70s. Like, these were the poster child. This was the poster child imagery for how trash and dangerous New York City was back in the 80s and the late 70s. But after decades of neglect, the station has become a symbol of despair in the disrepair in the mass transit system. Anna Warwa, 47, said she noticed how dingy the Chambers station was on her first visit 18 years ago. Not much has changed since then. I was very surprised when I came here, she said. How disgusting this station and like smelly. Oh my gosh, these Molly Polly's Dolly transplants. The National Register of Historic Places lays out the station has original glass wall tiles, a set of 10 eagle plaques made by the Groby Fiance Company, and other, quote, unifying decorative elements that are remarkable for their material quality and level of craftsmanship. Of course it's for their material quality because they lasted for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years of disrepair. And they're still there, kicking and not deteriorated. But that craftsmanship is easy to miss. Riders are more likely to associate the station with the grime, soot, and rust that covers its walls and ceilings. Several of the eagle plaques, for example, are severely damaged. We shouldn't have the system looking like this, said Beverly Alexander, 60, who works in the municipal building. Everybody comes through here. It's right off the Brooklyn Bridge, too. A lot of tourists. So we should fix stuff up because of the tourists. Not because we should have pride in our city. Not because the MTA has a responsibility to maintaining the grounds as a publicly funded private organization running the transportation system. Oh, my Lord Jesus. The MTA said it plans for contractors to clean and restore all the station's historic elements. The agency said in its bid documents that it plans to preserve the station's character while also adding modern features like new stairs and ramps for people who use wheelchairs. It would also add new artwork. Nigga. I'm scrolling through. Molly Polly Dolly's transplants talking about, oh, I love the history, I love the feeling. Just gets me tight. But yeah, so it goes into detail. Again, if you guys are new to this podcast, I put all of the articles down in the description. So if y'all want to read the rest to hear from the horse's mouth, y'all are absolutely welcome to do so. The MTA is a mafia. It's going to take them $100 million. They could have spent that $100 million. They could have maintained these stations the way that they were supposed to maintain them over the past 30 years and not have to spend $100 million to update them or to maintain them, to basically rebuild the station, the interiors of the station at this point. Because like other big cities, London, Barcelona, their transit systems, though they are not as robust in terms of how large they are and how interconnected that their cities are, they made sure to continually invest in not just maintenance but upgrading and updating stations. The MTA and its various CEOs and various representatives, high-ranking representatives, I suspect, have just pocketed millions of dollars, at this point billions and trillions of dollars, over its existence, over the course of the MTA's existence, because it makes all of this money year over year, even with fare evasion at this point at an all-time high, year over year, making the money that it needed to not only maintain its train stations, but to also upgrade and update and maintain their transportation technologies. Now one would say, well, they just spent X amount of money on these pass-through train cars like the Metro North, and they did update the train cars in the early 2000s and so on. Yeah, they did all of that, spent all this money as a superficial sort of whitewash or paint over, because they had not and were not updating their train track technology, their switching and signaling technologies. They were not updating them, and they had not been updated for 25, 30 years. They were not doing infrastructure changes and updates in order to make the system or so that the system can manage snow and heavy rain better. At this point, if it rains heavy enough, you're done. The trains are done. And these this company has been here for decades and decades and decades and decades, and we still can't manage to funnel the money where it's supposed to go. Somehow it disappears. So yeah, I think the MTA is a mafia, especially because these two stations are historic stations, like historic 1913. I mean, in the early years of subterranean train travel for New York City, these stations were built and were ornate and pretty and were examples of New York's stylistic sort of gusto and trailblazing architecture. And the MTA couldn't be bothered to, at the very least, funnel money to update and maintain its more historic, its more important stations for years. And it had nosedived. I mean, 70s, 80s, the train stations were trashed. The trains were trashed. Everything was dirty. Everything was, and I know that the citizenry kind of messes a lot of stuff up. You know what I'm saying? But they're getting money from us. They get money from the state. They get paid by the state from our taxpayer dollars to continue operations. And we are also, on top of that, we have to pay a fare to use the trains, which is crazy. I had come across this reel about that. Like how can we mess with the citizens the most? Oh, privatize public transportation, make them pay higher taxes so that we can pay the company that runs it. We pay them from the state taxes and from taxes, but then also make the people who already paid the taxes for the public transportation to be public and exist, make them pay again to use it. It's a racket. It's a racket. So certain people, I understand why some of the people I know, some of my niggas be like, yo, I'm not paying the MTA nothing. I'm hopping that turnstile every chance I get. Because it's like we pay our taxes and our tax dollars get used to pay the MTA, but somehow the MTA is always strapped for cash. And they always want to cite, fare evasion. No, you get hundreds of millions of dollars a year just off of our taxpayer dollars to keep you running. And you want to say that you want more money. You need more money. It's a damn shame. But yeah, the MTA is a mafia. What do y'all think about that? Let me know if y'all agree or if y'all disagree. All right? Let me know in the comments. We're going to forge ahead. This is the last story for the day. Pretty light, but we're going to get a little bit heavy now. Just a little bit. It's a very quick sort of gotcha. Because remember, or not remember, I'm not even going to reference it. Go over to Patreon, sign up for that We Here tier list so you can get our most recent or previous episode from last week. We talked about the interesting correlation that what's happening now with the migrants and how the Biden administration and sanctuary cities and what would appear to be the left are how they're treating this entire situation, and how all of that mirrors or it echoes or it is pretty much identical to certain things that happened way back in American history when the slavery was abolished. Go check that episode out. All right, y'all. That was a very interesting one. So I'm not gonna think it, but this, I'm not gonna reference it, but this is a gotcha kind of moment where it's like, the Biden administration has been pushing, LGBTQ sort of things and go a little bit overboard sometimes with it. And they go a little bit overboard. So it's sort of like they want to have their cake and eat it too. And they want to speak out of both sides of their mouths because, Biden's trying to get reelected, or the Biden administration needs, the powers that be in the government need Biden to be reelected again. So, politicians just say whatever. So this is an interesting say whatever moment. This is according to the Associated Press. Biden signs executive order on advancing study of women's health while chiding backward GOP ideas. Okay. All right. So, President Biden signs an executive order Monday aimed at advancing the study of women's health by strengthening data collection and providing better funding opportunities for biomedical research while chiding Republicans for having, quote, no clue about the power of women, but saying they're, quote, about to find out come November's election. So the idea, very clearly pandering, very clearly trying to buy votes through executive order. Because the migrant crisis problem is very unpopular with voters. Biden's approval rating is probably the lowest of any president ever in existence of the presidency. And everything else has been trash. So think COVID-19. Well, what they're thinking about it now. Think about the migrant crisis. Think about the economy, the inflation. Biden is polling at record lows. So he needs something. This administration, the powers that be, need a win. They've got to try to turn the tables or else they're going to lose the women vote, the black woman vote, right? So check this out. First of all, we unpacked those quotes. No clue about the power of women, the GOP, as if there are not any lady Republican senators, lady Republican representatives, as if there are not any lady Republican not mayors, which there are, or governors, but like even at the local level, you know what I'm saying? Like super local city level, as if there are not right leaning politically women who are leaders. Weird. But saying, right, the power women, but saying that they're about to find out come November. So basically, it's a haughty stance, similar to when Biden was being interviewed by Charlemagne from the Breakfast Club, and he said, "If you don't vote for me, you're not black." So it's like, if you don't vote for me, you must not think that women are powerful. And horrible. Taking agency away from women and their decision-making process, taking agency away from black people. And it's like, who are you? I remember back then the black community just let that slide. It's like, who are you, white man, to tell me, or who are you to think that you are somehow the arbiter of what blackness is and culture? Wild. I'm telling you, Biden has so many sound bites that really make him look bad. It's insane. I'm wondering why the Trump campaign has not capitalized on this yet. It's so much material. It's so much during the course of Biden's political career. So many gaffes, so much deception. It's wild. So many lies. It's wild. But anyway, I'm not going to get too crazy about it. Let's continue. Women's health has long been this is not a quote. Women's health has long been underfunded and understudied, which is true. It wasn't until the 1990s that the federal government mandated women be included in federally funded medical research. That is true. For most of medical history, though, scientific study was based almost entirely on men. That is true as well. But we can also see that as sort of having a compassion on women, because to run certain kinds of studies, certain kinds of pain will have to take place, and might not want to subject the fairer sex to that. But also there is a thing with funding and sort of second rateness, kind of, if you will, about it. So I'm not against that idea, that notion. Like I'm saying, that's true. And y'all are definitely going to hear the sounds of New York City, because I am in NYC and the windows are right here and windows right behind me. So you will definitely hear King Kong, King Kong, King. Even maybe the Mr. Softy truck might be rolling up, or might be a little too cold for that today. The other day it was there. Quote Quote, we still know too little about how to effectively prevent, diagnose, and treat an array of health conditions in women, said Dr. Carolyn Majur, the head of the White House Initiative on Women's Health. That is true. Today, research often fails to properly track differences between women and men and does not represent women equally, particularly for illnesses more common to them, which Biden suggested his order would help change. Quote, to state the obvious, women are half the population and underrepresented across the board. Nigga, underrepresented in what? But not in my administration. The president said, drawing raucous applause at a White House reception marking Women's History Month. Okay, so I need y'all to understand. I think I talked about it last week. The gaslighting is real. Okay? Y'all gotta go do y'all own research. Y'all gotta decide to not be NPCs and just read the headline and then decide to forget about what's being said day to day. Because I think that's how some of these people who quote unquote drink the tea, I think that's how they operate. Or it seems to be, because it's like, oh, we're going to go by what this person is saying today. But yesterday they contradicted themselves. Or yesterday they performed actions that go against the thing that they just said today. So don't you think that's worth exploring, scrutinizing? And they'll say, no. This is wild. So again, executive order for the purpose, not because he cares about women, not because the powers that be that are puppeting Biden, Weekend at Bernie's situation, look it up, Weekend at Bernie's. Not because they care about women, because I need votes. I need the powers that be need the agenda to continue the way that it needs to go. So we need votes. This is not about women's health, because he needed to toot the horn in the speech. The speechwriters needed to toot the horn that we have a bunch of women in our administration. I thought this was about women's health, like for Americans, the safety and of Americans, not to get a horn to and go, hey, remember I made sure that there was a lot of women. There's a lot of women. Right. Let's get to it. Biden said he's long been a believer in, quote, the power of research to help save lives and get high quality health care to the people who need it. He is not really a believer in the power of research because he made sure that all of his personnel and HR records, among other records from his campaign and his offices, were sealed in, I forgot which university in Delaware, where he made sure or saw to it that they were sealed away and could not legally be opened for another 50 years. Right after a woman who worked in his offices, his political offices, was saying that she was sexually assaulted by him. Let's make sure nobody can research about whether or not she did in fact file with HR like she said that she did and was not respected or was not honored, that there was no actual investigation when she came to my HR department. Let's make sure the American public cannot research that. How can we make it disappear? We seal it away, legally seal it for 50 years. Because I'll only be president maybe for 8. For 50 years, so my reputation will not be destroyed as much as it already should be destroyed. And I say should be because of his 50-year political career being absolutely filled with trash, racist, prejudice remarks, prejudice bills. I mean, wild. But yeah, so this guy is a fan of research now, all of a sudden. Interesting. But the executive order also checks off a political box during an election year when women will be crucial to his reelection efforts. First Lady Joe Biden is leading both the effort to organize and mobilize female voters and the White House Initiative on Women's Health Research. Interesting. Because, again, If we're talking Dems or we're just talking the powers that be, because really, if y'all go and subscribe, go and become a member over at the Patreon, because I do talk about my views about how it's really not a two-party system, how it's really just the same kind of overarching thing existing, and this two-party sort of battling is very much so set up to be theater to just keep us occupied. I go into detail in our episodes over at the Patreon. But you're going to find that whenever the Dems want to talk about, seemingly the Dems want to talk about, or the left, or however, want to talk about women's health, abortion always comes up as if it is a part of women's health. Right. Watch. In his comments at the reception, Biden didn't mention by name former president. Okay, I don't care about that. Instead, he referred to my predecessor, who had been, quote, bragging about overturning the Roe v. Wade decision that had guaranteed the constitutional right to abortion. Trump did not overturn that. They ran with that as if Trump somehow had pull or something. Please. And I've said it before, I think here, most Republican representatives do not like Trump. They don't want to deal with this nigga. Most of them do not, for various reasons. It is a small contingent that actually are on his side. Most Republican representatives, that's House of Representatives and Congress, Senate, don't rock with this nigga. They just don't. Now the media wants it to be polarized. They want y'all to be us against them type of deal. So they will report as if somehow Trump had some Godfather-esque, mafioso-esque pull on that decision with the Supreme Court and with Congress. He didn't. That's a fabrication. Completely fabricated. Outside of whatever headlines that CNN wanted to spew, if you go into it, actually go into what their basis is, it's conjecture. It's hearsay. Anyway, right, bragging about overturning Roe v. Wade that had guaranteed. Okay, watch this. Instead, he referred to, quote, my predecessor, who had been, quote, bragging about the overturning, unquote, the Roe v. Wade decision that had guaranteed the constitutional right to abortion. That's not true. And that's what the writer of this article said. The Roe v. Wade decision that had guaranteed the constitutional right to abortion, it did not guarantee the constitutional right to abortion. Legally. Now, any constitutional lawyer worth their weight in salt, whether it's the person's a lefty or a righty or a moderate, will tell you that it's a states' rights issue. That Roe v. Wade, the decision in Roe v. Wade, or it's rough that the Roe v. Wade decision exists because the way that legal precedent works made it that it's like not really part of the law, abortion, but it's softly a part of the law because it's up to whether people want to challenge or come up with other suits regarding abortion, and try to basically any other suits would challenge the president, the decision that set the president vis-a-vis or via Roe v. Wade. It was a legal precedent. It was not a law. It was not a federal law. There was and is no federal law regarding abortion. I don't think there is. And at the very least, at this point, if there was, there is not. And Roe v. Wade was simply a legal precedent. For those who don't understand, when one judge makes a certain decision regarding a certain kind of case, right? Could be murder, could be whatever, or what have you. They say the person's guilty, right? When someone else comes with a similar or the same kind of case happens again, that other judge is going to look to what the previous judge had ruled, what their reasoning was, how they invoked the law, and in what way that they did, what manner, in order to come to the conclusion that they did in that other case. So that's legal precedent. The precedent was set in the Roe v. Wade abortion. And the judge cited or ruled the way that the judge ruled. So the idea is, okay, well, legally, we don't have a law that says it's wrong or it's punishable. And on top of that, when it was brought to the Supreme Court, or when it was brought to the higher courts, they sided with if I'm not mistaken, was it the defendant? They sided with the person who had committed the abortion. So it's an ipso facto type of a thing. Ipso facto, it could kind of exist. It's a nebulous thing, basically. Just like there's not really a whole lot of federal laws having to do with prostitution, but then there are a lot of state laws that have to do with prostitution. And there are court cases that have precedent that they can run to having to do with prostitution and how to adjudicate, but nothing at the federal level type of a deal. It's like it's not federally illegal, but certain states it's illegal, but other states it isn't. Just like with sex work, where the states, basically, the idea is that the states have the right to put in their constitutions, to put in their law code what that is, whether it's legal or whether it isn't, is the same way that abortion is being treated today. Most, if not all, constitutional lawyers will tell you that it should have been a state issue to begin with. It should have never been a federal issue. It should never, through subsequent years of political campaigning of presidents, should never have been used and wielded in that kind of way, the subject of abortion. So for the Supreme Court to have ruled, to have overturned it, because it was the Supreme Court, to have overturned it, all it didn't make abortion illegal at all, because there was no legality to the abortion in terms of the rule of law. It made it open for the states to create hard and fast laws, because the federal government was not creating a law immediately. There was no bill immediately to codify abortion, which could have happened. And at any point since Roe v. Wade, the federal government could have codified abortion and made a federal law, either prohibiting or allowing abortion, given whatever caveats or what have you. Even with Congress dominated by the left, they didn't do that. They didn't. Often it doesn't even get brought up, like get brought in a bill often. So it's like, okay, it got overturned. There was no point of law that prohibited it anyway at the federal level. And there's no law that exists at the federal level that allows it. So the idea and in the ruling, the Supreme Court said this, it is a matter of the states to determine for the citizenry what to do with that. It is not the responsibility of the federal government. So you have states that allow abortion up to a certain point, put laws on the books to hard and fast. This is what it is. You had other states that look to ban it completely. And that's just what it is. The same way you have certain states where prostitution is legal and other states where prostitution is legal to a certain extent, sex work, and other states where it's completely banned. You can't do it. If we catch you, you're getting written up, you're getting a ticket, you're getting a fine, you're going to jail, etc. So to say that, to insinuate that there was some kind of guaranteed constitutional right is disingenuous. It's bad reporting. It's a bad surveying of constitutional law. But this person isn't a constitutional lawyer. This is just, they're echoing what they heard on CNN and MSNBC and all these other places, telling y'all need to dig into what the case law is. Y'all need to dig into all of these definitions, what these things mean, and why things are the way that they are. Because like I said, as much as the left or that sort of that side of the political sphere of thought, as far as they're concerned, they had a constitutional right because of Roe v. Wade. But all the while, there was no actual federal law. None of their heroes signed it into. None of their hero presidents signed a bill to put it into law. None of their hero Democrat representatives pushed heavy and created a bill and it got through. And if it just wasn't for that, no one really wants to touch it. Roe v. Wade was a thing. And the powers that be, or the government establishment, just said, okay, just leave it like that. We'll just leave it nebulous. It's like, oh, okay. But y'all want to say now it's a matter of women's health come on. There is a percentage of ladies who need to have an abortion or will need to because of health reasons and health concerns for both baby and mother. That is absolutely true. That is not what I'm talking about. There are emotional, mental consequences of rape, etc. that, to me, in instances, make sense. Abortion makes sense to me. Absolutely. Again, I'm not, and I've said this on the bonus episodes, and I've said it here too. I'm not for anybody. I'm not a Trumper. I'm not a Bidener. I'm not an Obamaer. I'm not a Demer. I'm not a whatever you want to say. I'm not right wing. I'm not left wing. I'm maybe moderate, but not even really. Maybe centrist, but not even really. It's really a lot of different things that I understand can work together copacetically regarding efficient rule of our people, of this country. And a lot of that just has to do with personal perspective and positioning of our elected officials. That's really what it has to do, because you can quote unquote come from a certain ilk politically in a certain way of thinking, and another person can come from a different ilk and political way of thinking on how to solve a certain problem. They come together, they look at what the statistics are, they look at what the data is, they look at the available information. They should be able to come together for the good of the most people, for the good of the most of as much of the citizenry as possible. They should be able to come together, interlock their ideas, and legislate and adjudicate for the benefit of as many people as possible. Sometimes that means, well, right here, I see that the way that we might do it may not work. So maybe, what do you prescribe? Oh, that? Okay, let's put that in, and vice versa. You know, I think this way, or I would like the solution to problems to be a certain kind of way, but it doesn't always work. Like, it's not always, all of the parts aren't always gelling. So I got to take certain parts out. What parts do you have? Oh, maybe that part gels in here, where this part of my solution doesn't work. That's how it should be. We should be coming together. It shouldn't be this weird WWE, WWF style propaganda showdown. Like, what? It sounds dumb. Like, everyone sounds dumb. Everyone does. All the sides. North, south, east, and west. Let us continue. The president suggested that would hurt Trump and the GOP during this fall's election, saying, quote, "You can't lead America with old ideas and take us backward." So I'm assuming what he means by that is abortion, because we're going to see. Meaning, and then again, let me say this. The media will tell you that Trump is some kind of dictator and is super against abortion, but really Trump is not, and has gone on record to say that he hasn't been, and that we should come to a compromise regarding it, and that it should be up to the states. There are mitigating circumstances that justify abortion 100%. He said these things. Just look it up. Anyway. Further leaning into politics, Biden said, again, this is supposed to be a women's health thing. Further leaning into politics, Biden said his administration has turned around, quote unquote, turned around the economy because we focused on women, unquote. False. Noting that female unemployment had fallen and the number of women-owned small businesses had increased. That is absolutely false. Now, if y'all look at if I'm not mistaken, our previous free episode, there is a Don't Walk Run video regarding the State of the Union, and he talks about the economy and jobs and job formation and inflation, etc. And State of the Union, he just said patently false statements. Like it's patently like so wrong, false, that it's as if I came on here and told you, oh, the sky is purple today, and you look up and no, it's blue. No, it's purple. It's purple. I made sure it was purple. It's purple. That's how those lies were, and everybody was clapping on the one side of the room in Capitol Hill and all that jazz. They were lies, and it's not that they were lies because of some kind of anecdotal thing. They were lies because if you go switch over to our previous episode here on YouTube and where you're listening, you click on that Don't Walk Run video. Again, subscribe to Don't Walk Run. Let them know in the comments that Marcus Pena sent you. Marcus Pena Presents sent you. You could tag me on YouTube at Marcus Pena Presents or at Social Millennial Pod. But he broke down that State of the Union address and showed, based off of the U.S. official U.S. consumer reporting, that it was a lie. They were all lies. This is not anecdotal. This is not, oh, you're going to Fox News to find information. No. This is what the government released in terms of what the statistics are and comparative statistics are and have been. Oh my Lord. So yeah, this is just patently false. He said his administration has ensured that women can access jobs in sectors where they've been historically underrepresented. Quote, women could always. And said he told leaders from some of the nation's top labor unions that he wants to see more women and minorities in their ranks in labor unions. Now, I say that it hasn't always been I say that it's always been in that there have not been laws prohibiting women to be in construction, prohibiting women to be in STEM. It's actually just through quotas, hiring quotas, that they're pushing for women to be in these places. And the hiring quotas generally fail. They're still male dominated. You still don't get because women are autonomous. They make their own decisions. They want to do certain things and they gravitate towards other things. And that's just what they do. And that's okay. That's all right. Something wrong. There's nothing inherently wrong if you are a woman and you decide to become a nurse or psychologist or something else, as opposed to being a construction worker. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. You're okay. You're your own person. More power to you. You're still a powerful woman. Anyway. Let's see. Right. Does breakdowns. Vice President Kamala Harris. Shriver can get the healthcare reserve, saying that we'll sign with our president. Still before you as the first one vice president. Okay. There are those who are intent on dragging Republican states that have limited access to abortion. We all face a question: what kind of country do we want to live in? Okay, right. It goes on to just talk about abortion, and Kamala Harris talking about, oh, there's those states, Republican states, that want to go backwards and put limits on abortion, which is wild because CNN and MSNBC will tell you, oh, they want to go backwards because they all want to get rid of abortion. But Kamala Harris herself, that was a very middle of the road statement to say that some of them want to limit abortion. That means they understand that abortion, there's a reason for this type of a thing, but there should be limits to it. We should not have full-term abortions. We should not have late-term abortions. We should have abortions up to a certain point. I mean, you can look on YouTube for man on the street interviews in California on Venice Beach and people saying the most controversial things. I mean, yeah, those men on the street interviews are often cherry-picked things, but you would be surprised there are people in existence who do think that they should be able to kill their child no matter what age they are. There were people who were like, oh yeah, even if they're 1 year old, I should be able to kill it. Wild. Anyway, Anyway, just bringing up that this wasn't even what I was going to bring up. Very early, I wanted to keep going in the article, but very early is this interesting concept now. So we're talking about gaslighting, or I'm going to talk about gaslighting here, because the Biden administration wants to soldier the trans community, and how trans women are women, right? Trans women are women, even though they have the physiology of a man. Trans women are women, right? Watch this. Trans women are women, and the Biden administration pushed and stands the idea that men and women are the same, which is why we have all of the quotas, all of the hiring quotas, because men and women are the same. There's no difference between a man and a woman, right? I'm going to reiterate right in the beginning, opening of this article. Where's it mandated until the health by research was saying there to find out. Come on, where is it? Today research falls, right? Illnesses, or I say obviously women have self-population underrepresented. Drawing rock. Okay, no, it's this one. Today research often fails to properly track differences between women and men, and does not represent women equally, particularly for illnesses more common to them, which Biden suggested his order would help to change. So there's the acknowledgement with this bill, or with this executive order, that men and women have inherent physiological differences, and that it has truly been a disservice to women in terms of the funding for research regarding certain illnesses that solely impact women, that needs to be addressed, right? And that's true. That's not wrong. But now, doesn't this whole crusade that the Biden administration has been on and the media has been on about women and men being the same, so then that means that a trans woman is a woman, even though the trans woman retains all of the physiological differences that a man has between men and women, even though there are certain diseases and certain things, certain illnesses that only women contract that a trans woman will never contract, but somehow a trans woman is a woman in the sense that a woman is a woman. So y'all see the kind of, let's talk out of both sides of our mouths, because we need the cis women vote. We need the cis women. So we have to, when we want to look like we are politically correct and not ruffle any feathers, we're going to say that trans women are women because women are exactly like men and there's no difference. Because if women were exactly like men and there's no difference, then we would have no need, or wouldn't have to even consider that women's medical research has been underfunded for decades. We wouldn't care, because men's medical research yields the information that pertains to women's medical research. So we kill two birds with one stone, because men and women are physiologically identical, right? We're the same. But nah, so we're gonna tippy toe and go, oh yeah, trans women are women and belong in women's spaces. But men and women are inherently different, and so and as a result, or not as a result, but are inherently different. And it is true that we have done women who are inherently different physiologically than men a disservice in the medical field by not putting enough money into researching and progressing medical practice when it pertains to women who are physiologically different than men. But trans women are women in the sense that women are women. So they're physiologically the same as women, but they're not. Oh, okay. Interesting. So you see the circular sort of logic there that doesn't really make sense. It kind of breaks down. So, basically saying the soft part out loud, the inward part out loud, basically. But, the science never changed. the science never changed. They just wanted to introduce these things having to do with the DSM and gender dysphoria, and went overboard with it, propagandized it, used it as a weapon. I mean, I really do feel sorry for people who are trans, in that their movement is from the get-go, when they decided to bring in intersectional feminism into American culture and then into politics and into business, that the trans plight or predicament became co-opted and propagandized. And then, of course, went overboard, because we want to be able to destabilize these otherwise. We want to be able to destabilize our society. So we're going to use you as the weapon and basically just say illogical things and misrepresent trans people and what they go through mentally and emotionally. We want to misrepresent it to the public, or we want to represent it a certain kind of way, a certain kind of flavor to the public. Not that trans people are very complex people, but that they are a monolith, and this is how they look, this is how they talk, this is who they are, this one set way. So it's trash. And again, the government is trash. And it's people. Let me not say the government. I say that to say that people are trash. They just are. These politicians are trash. The leadership is trash. Powers that be are trash. Anyway, enough of that story. Let me know what y'all think in the comments, because I said a few controversial things. This video, this YouTube thing might get demonetized or whatever. I don't know. But let me know what y'all think in the comments. All right, y'all. Let me know if y'all agree, if y'all disagree. This is a very nuanced topic, and a lot to unpack there. So make sure to let me know. Do you think Biden is right? Do you think it's them talking out of both sides of their mouths, being disingenuous? Do you think it is really tragic that the LGBTQ or our homosexual brethren and trans brethren, and I say brethren because we are all humans. These are still our brothers and sisters. These are still our kin in kind. Do we think it's tragic? Do you think it's tragic that what they're going through, they're sort of finding their way in this world, in their life, has been propagandized and co-opted, and often they've been presented and painted as a monolith, as most propagandizers do. They'll paint black people as a monolith. They'll paint Latino people as a monolith, white people as a monolith. White men are villains. We need to paint them in the picture. We need to paint them in a specific picture so that everyone buys that every single white person in the world is a villain. It's a monolith. It's a monolith. Which is why, it just is what it is. Racial prejudice, being afraid of other people, just being prejudiced against other people, is often that there are people are afraid of ghosts. They're afraid of this stereotype that's been fed to them, and stop seeing the other humans around them as people and as humans. Is dehumanizing for everyone. Let me know what y'all think. All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much for pulling up. I'm super hyped to go see the new Ghostbusters movie. I did not get to see Kung Fu Panda 4. I'm going to see it. I want to see how that is. I'm a fan of Kung Fu Panda. But Ghostbusters, I'm super down to watch. I've listened to and watched some reviews, and people are like, it's kind of mid. But I want to see for myself. Maybe I'll like it. There were plenty of people who said Ghostbusters Afterlife was mid, but I liked Ghostbusters Afterlife. I thought it was good. I thought it was great for what it needed to be at that time, and in the timeline of that universe. I think it needed to be what it was. But I'm gonna let y'all know what I think about it. I might do just a whole review video. Might put it on the Patreon, might not. We'll see what happens. But I'm super excited for it for this week. I'm practicing. I'm developing my skills and my abilities. I hope that y'all are doing so too. And yeah, thank you for pulling up. Again, at Social Millennial Pod on Instagram, on TikTok, and on Facebook. All right, make sure to follow us on everything. We're on Spotify. We're on Amazon, Spotify, Amazon Music /Prime playlists, whatever. We're on Apple Podcasts, We're all over the place at Social Millennial Pod. If you put that in the search bar, odds are you're going to find us. Head on over to YouTube, like, follow, subscribe. Thank y'all so much. Go over, check out the Patreon. Even if you don't want the extra episode, hit that supporter membership tier. It's a very little bit of money. It's going to go a long way. Thank y'all so much. Like, subscribe. I'm very grateful for y'all. Deuces.